Cool. This is another. Let's do some reading or something. Let's do some reading. Some stuff here. Been reading this book lately. This is a pretty good book. Um, you know, it covers car marketing and car buying habits here in the United States. I think it's pretty interesting to go through that stuff. A very study, although a lot more readable than I expected. It's not, it comes from a scientific background, but it's not especially difficult or dense to get through, which I really appreciate because that can certainly turn a lot of people off. And I think that the stuff they're trying to express in this one is worthy of the attention of the general public, and um, one interesting component I think is that they have just a lot of quotes and information that they receive directly from uh, you know car manufacturing company executives, marketing executives, etc. And one individual in particular who apparently used to be a car salesman during a previous time in his life, and he was so kind of fed up and disgusted by, let's say, less exactly, but an organization that intends to, you know, spread information about uh, these practices and how buyers can protect themselves when they go out to buy a new car. Um, yeah, I bought a used car coming up on 2 years ago now, actually, and I did not take my time. I did a lot of research beforehand for about a year's worth, and then it just happened that the old car was on the way out, and I was sick of it breaking down and not starting and things. So I just went into a used car dealership where I happened to be and looked at a couple options and just grabbed one, which is really not a great way to buy a car. I think I got out of it pretty unscathed overall. Probably paid a little bit too much for it. Um, and I think the only real sort of, if I could call it any kind of dishonest or leading business practices, was just that I realized after the fact that they were like, they had obviously done some things to the car to make it look like it had fewer problems. Just on the surface level, it wasn't mechanical stuff. It was just like, oh, this pocket is losing its stitching. We'll just tape it on the inside so it stays shut. Or like I found little screws um, on the plastic on the inside of the front bumper to make it secure so it didn't look like it was falling off. And it hasn't fallen off, and that's fine. But like doesn't exactly stoke further confidence, in these businesses. Um, but yeah, if it's possible to take your time with buying a different car or leasing a different car, you should do it. You should be really honest about what you really want, and as well as just being honest about your budget. You got to have a limit, set that limit, and you stick to it. And I think that's very helpful, especially for first time buyers, especially if it's maybe even more challenging. Rather, it's probably more challenging to speak with a private buyer through something like Craigslist as opposed to going into a dealership, because my goodness, then it's not like we're talking about any regulations always, where you're just talking to another person who's trying to sell their car, and who wants to get as much money for it as possible. So you do really have to be careful there. You should always bring a friend to one of those situations for sure, just for safety and also peace of mind and kind of moral support. You really need to be confident going into a situation like that. And yeah, pretty pretty important stuff, pretty tricky stuff, but we all get there. We all get there, and if you can buy a used car, go for it. You don't need to lease something new. Wasn't there some kind of study that found that it was actually more environmentally friendly to just buy a used car as opposed to buying a brand new Tesla, because brand new. Just the resources that were used to make that, and even the resources that go into the battery of electric cars like that are scarce, we'll say, and getting them can have a pretty big environmental impact. Um, so there's plenty of reliable old cars out there, and I think we're getting better at taking care of them and making sure that they run for a long time. I know even like the first generation, second generation Toyota Priuses are still out there, like quite a lot of them, especially on the resale market. Like you'll find these things with more than 100,000, more than 150,000, or in excess of 200,000 miles on the odometer, and it's just wild. It's wild. I'm glad that they've held up so well, and hopefully that'll start to be a trend with other hybrid and electric vehicles that have been manufactured since that time. Who knows? But yeah, gosh, it's important. You gotta, at least where I live, you gotta have a car. You just have to. You gotta keep it running. Gotta make sure you got a way to get around town and all that kind of thing. And um, yeah, tricky stuff, but kind of fun to talk about, isn't it? Well, I think that's about it. I didn't get shut down by the man this time. Apparently, there was audio playing in the background on the previous test stream. Um, so although I am watching the cartoon Doug in the background, since we can't hear it, we're good to go. So just let's all pretend we're watching Doug together. Um, yeah, and I guess another thing we could potentially do is just you know do little watch parties of Bob's Burgers, or maybe other shows that we might be interested in or that a lot of people enjoy. We could, Adventure Time would be fun, or some Steven Universe, so we wouldn't be streaming the content, but if you have your own means of watching the episode, we would be more than happy to watch along with you. I think that would be fun. I will also try to get this going on a computer with a better camera, because boy, oh boy, look at this video. This looks like the video quality is like, I don't know. Remember like the very, very early days of YouTube? Back then, I was basically just using it to watch concert videos and stuff, and that was also around the same time of the first, very bad cell phone cameras, and the video quality was about like this. This is not this is not HD, but we'll get it all figured out. We'll maybe hook up a nice microphone as well, because I'm sure the audio is not great. I sure wish I could hear it to check. Um, but anyway, that's all. If you're wondering about that book I mentioned, it's called Carjacked. You see, Catherine Lutz and Ann Lutz Hernandez were behind this one. You can find it pretty cheap online. Great reading material if you're staying inside a lot right about now. And yeah, let's kill it. End.